you know, as much as fun as it's been this past week and meeting a lot of you and coming over and saying hi, you know what? My highlight has been I've been getting up at like 6:30 and there's nobody down by the water's edge along. And I've just been walking. I did it this morning for like an hour and 20 minutes. And you know, as many times you can, when you grow up and you see the falls, it never gets old.
Yeah.
It's not like you walk up one time and you're like, oh yeah, it looks smaller today. No, it's the same size. It looks pretty impressive.
What do you find that in your life now that is that thing, that is the Niagara Falls, that, you know, from the outsider's view, we'd be like, oh my God, that is amazing. What a wonder of the world. But now to William Fichtner has become, oh, well, I live here, so it's kind of commonplace. What is that for you? Is there anything that kind of springs to mind?
Tell me the question again. You got me lost there.
I know. I got myself lost there. No. I'm just asking if there's anything in Hollywood or in your life now that before you got to this point that you would have been, like, I guess 20 years ago, 40 years ago, that you would have been like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this now, but it's commonplace now for you.
Well, not even sure of the question yet, but I'm going to answer. But I got an answer.
I didn't even.
Let's just put it this way: every time I see the falls, and especially at night when they put the lights on it, I look forward to the day when I see the falls all lit up, and it's got like Buffalo Bills Super Bowl champions. That's what I want to see. I could even go with Sabres Cup champions. It's okay. Sabres have an average age right now of 13 and a half. So it's going to be a few years. But I never give up. I love when people say to me, like, are you still a Bills fan? I'm like, what's wrong with you? Come on. Once a fan, always a fan.
I've been a Bengals fan for 40 years.
A what fan?
Bengals fan.
All right, so I'll turn around on this.
You know, yes, I don't deal with that. I'm a Vikings fan. It's much better. Vikings is much better though. I'm sorry.
Which one?
Minnesota.
Minnesota?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, just
so we
lost.
have 0 Super Bowls.
0 Super Bowls and over. I always say if the Bills and the Vikings play in a Super Bowl, it'll be the first ever earthquake that ends it all. It's be like, yep, no contest.
We got Bengals, we got Vikings, so I'm just going to talk to you now.
Go Sabres.
Go Sabres.
Now, we all know about, I don't know if everybody does, but it's been well documented about your start. You didn't go into college to become an actor, and it was, you know, you had to take an elective, and it had to be a liberal arts, am I right?
Well, I was a criminal justice major. I have a bachelor's in criminal justice, and then when I was a junior, I had to take one fine arts course. So, admissions counselor said, you need one fine arts course, and I said, well, what's that? And he said, anything, any theater, music, so I took an improv class, and I loved it. I never really saw play in high school, because as soon as we got close to the auditorium, I went right out the exit door. We wouldn't play hockey. But I took this improv class, and it was, I just had such a great time in it, and the teacher was really supportive, and then I graduated with my criminal justice degree, and I thought, what a beautiful, wonderful day. I'll never do this. And I wouldn't back up to 4 years. I had the best time. I just took a shot.
And is it true as well that your teacher talked you to like dropping some of your main courses, or at least picking up some other electives?
Well, I still had electives left, and the teacher of this improv class said to me, Sally Rubin was her name, and she said, you should take other acting classes, you know. And I still had some electives, you know, classes you could take anything you wanted. And so I started taking the other theater classes that they had. And then eventually, you know, like I said, graduated in the summer of '78 and took a shot. And I auditioned for a very old famous acting school in New York called the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And I got in and sold my pickup truck and took a bus to New York. There you go. And then I waited a lot of tables. A lot of tables.
Well, right, because it's never, well, I shouldn't say it's never instantaneous, but that is the rarity in making it in Hollywood, is that instantaneous stardom. You paid your dues as well, and You did what I think is one of the hardest jobs in the world for any actor, and you were on a soap opera. Can you talk to us about, because it's different. I don't think people understand the intensity of having to be on set every day and having those lines every day and having to have those big dialogues.
Well, I'll give you an example. Let's say like a big studio film that shoots over 4 or 5 months. To shoot an hour worth of or 45 minutes worth of footage for a film, that could happen over 2-3 months. A small indie film, 2 to 3 weeks, you could shoot an hour of film footage. A soap opera, you shoot, or a 1 hour drama on television, like Prison Break. It'd take you about 8-9 days to shoot one show. A soap opera, you shoot one show in 1 day. That's all they had. So, know your lines, which basically said the same thing for 3 months and then they changed it. I literally was in a scene one time where the camera would go from a group talking over here, and I looked at the girl, the other actress in the scene, and I said, I forgot my line. She goes, I don't remember your line. I'm like, I forgot. But I basically said the same thing for the last month. So when the camera came over, I was like, I still don't think she likes me. And she goes, I don't think she does either. And they were like, cut. That's a take. All right, cut. And I'm like, all right. I was in the ball game. That worked.
That's great. I mean, and it just seems that it's so much pressure, like you're saying. But it's funny to hear you say that you can kind of get away with that. Like it makes you wonder how much attention the writers were paying, or how much they were paying attention to themselves. Yeah, you're on there with Julianne Moore as well. You've had like a cavalcade of who's who of actors and actresses. Is there anyone that stands out to you where you're like, oh my God, I still can't believe I was just hanging out with fill in the blank?
Most of all, I'm sure I've worked with, big movie stars, great character actors. But there's so many people that I've appreciated their journey. I love being on set and watching someone do something and think. And I'm not a critical guy. I'm critical with myself. I don't really care watching myself. But I love watching other actors. I'll give you an example. I remember, I don't know Chris Nolan well, but he asked me to do this cameo in the beginning of The Dark Knight, just that little bank manager scene. And I remember, it was the first 2 days of photography on the film, and I remember when Heath Ledger came out in his makeup and everything, and we just rehearsed the scene, and I watched him and I thought to myself, that's pretty freaking good. I loved what he was doing. So I've been fortunate and I love watching. And then, and then I worked on this show Mom for a few years. And,
Yes.
And it's so funny because when we came along, when I moved to New York in the late 70s after college, you got to know all the young actors that are, that were around and trying to get a job. None of us were waiting tables and that. So I met Allison Janney back in the mid 80s when we were kids. So then fast forward all these years, and when Mom came along, it was like, hi Allison. And she was just someone that, when you know somebody for 40 years and then you spend time with them, it's just a joy.
And you guys had great chemistry on Mom.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, you guys could, like we were talking about earlier, you could have had a spin-off of your own, and it seemed like a couple seasons.
We had last 2 seasons without
Anna for the last season. But I love when the directors used to go to Allison. This happened a few times where she'd come walking in on a scene, which was always great. The best part about working on Mom was it's fun to rehearse it and everything, but it's a real writer's medium. They're very specific. They wrote it a certain way. They want you to say it a certain way. But when Friday night comes along and it's in front of a live audience, and there's 350 people in a theater, and then you got the crew and all the cameras and the people and the lights and everything, then the evening belonged to the audience. And you could stretch things out, have some fun, improv a little bit, not too much, but if you're gonna improv, make sure it's really funny. But they used to tell Allison things, and she would walk into the set without telling me, and our director, Jamie, used to go, well, just don't mention it to Bo. Sometimes she'd walk in and I'd be sitting there on the TV and on the set, and she would walk by and just go, And I'm like, okay, all right. Nobody said anything about that, but it's okay. It's gonna look really good on me.
Now, you worked with that. Did you work with Allison on The West Wing as well? Have you guys seen that when, him on The West Wing as well? Because that is one of the best arcs I've saw on that show.
Yes, but I actually didn't work with her on that. It was more with Glenn Close, but it was, I don't do a ton of guest spots, but I remember that, my agent sent me that script and said, what do you think about this? And I read it and I'm like, I'm in. Yeah, I'm in. I really like that.
And I've seen you on other interviews talk about how important that script reading process is for you and how detrimental that is to whether you're actually going to take a role on or not. Where did that come in? Was that some kind of training, or is that something that you've learned from just kind of trial and error?
Honestly, I've always felt like people say, "Do you just want to do action?" I like doing everything. But, if I don't believe the script, or if it's a bad guy for the sake of being a bad guy and he has no redeeming qualities. I just got offered a script a couple of weeks ago and I really like the story, but the role itself, I wouldn't know how to play it. I try to find things that, even if it's a character that's rough in nature, you try to find things that, what makes a character real? What do they care about? And then you can make it a real person, no matter what they do. But sometimes that's not part of it, and and then I just don't. What it is? The bottom line: if I don't believe in something, I have a real fear that I won't be very good.
Right.
And not that it's not like I watch things I do and I'm like, damn, that was good. It's not my thing. My best buddy, I'll ask him. He'll go to work one day and come back home, and I'll go, "How'd it go today?" And he'll go, "I was brilliant." and he was. I know he was. And he'll go, "How'd it go for you today?" And I'm like, I don't know. I think that's good.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying, I'm just always trying to find the good thing.
Right.
You mentioned obviously being a Bills fan, being a Sabres fan, and obviously the opportunity to come home and film something is always something an actor jumps at. Were you a boxing fan before you committed to Cutman?
No, I just I shot a film.
Which he just recently wrapped. So.
Yeah, I shot a film 7 years ago, and in Buffalo, and in Portland, New York, and you can only imagine what a career highlight it was to bring something back home. It was just the best. Yeah, I did it with Kim Coates. You know who Kim Coates is from Smith America? I met Kim Coates 2001 in Morocco. I met my best friend when I was 44 years old, and had rooms next to each other in the Rabat Hilton, which is really stretching the Hilton name. And the night I met Kim, we just sat there and started talking, and he was a hockey fan, and he said to me, literally, the first day I met him, he went, "Go Sabres," and I'm like, I like this guy. And then that night, I think we, had like several bottles of red wine, and he was trying to convince me that Buffalo was actually part of Canada. And I'm like, I'm not that drunk. But I did work on a film this past spring, and it shot in Buffalo. The smallest budget film I think I've ever worked on. The least amount of days. They believe they had a schedule that we're going to shoot a whole feature film in 17 days. And I have to tell you, I think it's my favorite thing that I've ever done. Even out of big films, small films.
This is Cutman we're talking about?
Yeah, this is Cutman. It's a film about an aging boxer and a wonderful relationship that he has with a small 10-year-old, and she kind of saves his life and he kind of saves her. And now with tiny films like this, and small budget films, they'll put the film together. The writer-director will, his name is Michael Mailer, and he'll try to take it to a festival like a Toronto or Sundance, and festivals that have a market so we can try to sell the movie. And there's no guarantee that he will, but the bottom line is he has to make a really good film. I hope he does. I think he will, because I think we shot something really special. But my personal highlight of anything I've done.
And is that where your career is now? Are you just interested in passion projects and things that Or is that always been
You know,
the case?
I mean, I'm not quite at the bucket list time of my life, but because that's what you're saying, buddy. That's what you're saying. You know what?
You know what?
I'm gonna talk to you.
You can tell this guy is a Buffalo fan because he is so nihilist. He's just hearing the end.
Can we cut his mic off, please? No, you know, in a way, a little bit. You know, I'm no spring chicken, but I do find myself being attracted to the things that have meaning. You know, I just want to do things that have meaning. You know, I just, listen, I wake up every day and start the day by saying, honey, I'm going to apologize for everything I'm going to do wrong today. And then after that, I don't care what I do.
Fair, that's fair. And I just want to preface this is not me kissing your ass either. I wasn't saying because you're older, I'm saying because you were such an established actor, and you are. Like, we were talking before you came out here, we were saying, like, we see you in everything. There's not a movie, and it was a little bit of hyperbole, but we're like, every TV show and every movie ever William Fichtner's been in. And then I said, unlike, a lot of other those faces, you're like, hey, I know that guy. It's like, but with William Fichtner, he's in a multitude of just bangers of Academy Award winners or nominated or just those top of the film list of all time. Like, you were that guy. And again, this isn't me kissing ass, but that was just.
No, keep going, buddy. Really.
Thank you. But yeah, so that's where I was kind of going with that, and just with the passion, and it kind of goes back to the script though, because I do the one thing that I saw in one of your interviews that really did stick out for me when it came to about dissecting scripts was being able to tell whether that character was germane to the story, whether they would make the final edit.
So I should tell, my second film that I ever did, I did a small film, independent film called The Underneath, and then I worked on this film called Virtuosity. If you saw it?
Yeah, Russell Crowe.
Okay, so that's the 8th person that's seen it. Okay. My 4 sisters saw it, my mother, and then one other person and you.
That's one of my favorite movies, though. Virtuosity.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
All right, well, let me tell you something. I remember when the film came together, and I was in New York with my best buddy, and I went to the big Sony theaters on the Upper West Side, and I sat down with my buddy Max, and I said, hey, really cool scenes coming up. And the movie's playing, and this scene wasn't in there, and I'm like, they must have moved it or something. But there's another one. Wait, watch this right here, another scene. Yeah, it didn't make it either. And about 80% of what I shot for that film was not in the film. And I remember I was just like, wow. So the next film that came along was the Pacino De Niro film Heat. And my agent said to me at the time, listen, it's only 5 scenes. It's only 5 scenes in the film. And it was a huge, long, 170-page script. And I read it, and I called my agent back, and I said, but it's 5 scenes you can't cut out of the movie. They're consequential to the movie. They're part of the storyline. And even to this day, I read something a couple of years ago that I thought was a really interesting script. And I called my agent back, and I said, it'll never make it in the movie. I'm telling you right now, it's inconsequential to the storyline.
Has that movie come out yet?
I don't care. I don't care.
Fair.
I was going to watch it, but then I had to cut the lawn. So I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I say to my wife, do you know who I am? She's like, yeah, take the garbage out. No respect.
Well, where's your wife from?
She's originally from Massachusetts.
So she's a Bostonite. Like, she's a Boston fan.
She was a Patriots fan. It took me like 15, 16 years to bring her to the light. I brought her over.
Now, did you bring her
Was
over?
it just in time for the Patriots dynasty?
Again, I don't want to talk to him. What is it? I can't find Barnabas. Can't somebody else come up here and talk to me? Somebody else come up.
Oh, no, we did. That does bring up a good point because we were getting a little pressed for time. If you guys do have questions, you're going to go right up here. There you go. All right. Liking it.
Here we go, brother. Hi.
My question is, you've done dramatic roles, you've done comedic roles. Which are kind of your favorite? You kind of touched on that earlier, but and why?
You know what? You know, honestly, kind of like I said a few minutes ago, I like it all. I really do. I don't pick things for that. You know, pick things that. And sometimes in my life I've been a little more picky and choosy than I really kind of had a right to. But you just find the things that are exciting. And you know, like when Mom came along, I was like, it's really, you know, I love this. I want to do that. But you never really know. And it's such an individual thing, and it always was for me. You're welcome.
Man, you got a question?
Yeah, hi.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 questions. First question is, out of all the actors or actresses you ever worked with, who was your favorite? And also, if you were to pick any character, superhero character, who would you feel would be the best person that would fit your role? And yes, I got your question.
I'm not sure what the second question meant.
All the superhero, all the movies like Marvel
Yeah.
and DC, which character would you feel would be the best person to suit your character?
Honestly, I don't watch a ton of things, and I don't watch a lot of things that I'm in. And I haven't seen a lot of Marvel or DC.
Yeah, you saw Batman.
He was in Batman. I didn't say he saw it.
I saw some of it. I saw a little bit of it.
The opening was really good.
Yeah. Opening was really freaking good. No. But favorite actors that I've worked with, you know,
The number one.
You know, probably my best buddy Kim Coates. You know, I've worked on a lot of things with Kim, but I got to tell you, I've had the pleasure of. Don't clap for him. His ego is out of control right now.
He
didn't show up.
His Coates is electric hair.
I felt the vibe. People were thinking about me. Boy, it's just tough. There's so many people that I've had the pleasure to work with, Jodie Foster, and just people that I never forgot. And I thought, my God, they're just so good. There's so many.
And the last thing I find after the movie Mom, after the TV show Mom, you're able to really walk well after a wheelchair.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you noticed that. People ask me, you know, was it hard to do? And I'm like, no, I had to sit down and but thank you. What's your
Thanks, brother. Next question.
Thank you.
Well, pleasure to meet you. My level of, respect for you just went up 10 levels because I didn't realize you're from Cheektowaga, from West Seneca. So I'm going to West Seneca Central, Cheektowaga Central High School probably.
No, Maryville.
Oh, Maryville, okay. So West Seneca East, born and bred, Buffalo, New York. So go Bills. And if you know you're a true Bills fan, when someone says go Bills, you have to say go Bills back. Because if you don't say go Bills back, then you're not a true Bills fan.
Absolutely.
So, I guess my question, I actually forgot my question, but I guess my question is to you, like, do you ever go back home and do you have still have family back there that you go and visit?
I do. I still have a lot of family. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends in high school that have been really good about keeping in touch over the years. I have my 50th high school reunion this July, and at last I heard, I graduated at the height of the baby boom, which was 74, 75. That was like, my same high school that graduates 170 kids now, graduated in 74, 610. So apparently we have like 200 people that are coming to the 50th reunion. Now, 1/3 of a high school class 50 years ago, that's a pretty good number. But I'm coming home for that. My wife said to me, "You're not going, are you?" And I'm like, "You don't have to go, but I'm going. I will be back for that."
He's going after that homecoming queen.
Did you say homecoming queen?
Nice. I was going to, and I'm like, oh wait, he's married.
I'm going for homecoming queen.
Go Bills.
But I won't be go Bills.
School.
Maury William.
Mark.
I have 2 questions for you. First question is, out of all the films you have worked on in your career, what is your favorite one you've done? And second one is, how was the experience on working in The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler?
Thanks, great question.
Am I the only one that saw that?
My sister saw it. I had a great time on, who doesn't want to work on a football movie? I'm such a football fan. Threw an awful lot of passes. My shoulder hurt for about a year after, and I'm not even kidding. My favorite memory of working on Longest Yard was I never take my kids to set that much. I always wanted them to think, not an actor, I'm dad. So my older boy, who's 32, he was about 8 or 9 when we were making The Longest Yard, and I took him to set. I took him to Santa Fe where we were shooting, and just wanted to show him around a little bit. And so we're walking towards the trailers and that, and I mentioned to Adam the day before, I just started working with him a couple of weeks, don't really know Adam that well yet. And I told him that my son Sam was coming the next day, and as I'm walking to the trailer, Adam pulls up in a golf cart, and he's like, Sam, come on, hop on, we got things to do. Sam hopped on the cart, and away they went for like 45 minutes. And Adam showed them all around, and you know what? When somebody does that with your kid, that was my favorite memory of working on that.
And your favorite film you've done in your career?
Favorite film? It's another tough one, some of the ones based on true stories like Perfect Storm or Black Hawk Down have a lot of meaning, because you're really honoring a lot of people that really went through these things. They always stand out. And to tell you honestly, this little film that I just did in Buffalo called Cup Man, and I hope it works. I might put that at the top of the list.
I think Armageddon's the best we've done.
Thank you very much. Well, hey, listen, somebody had to save the planet. And it might as well be a guy from Maryville. Yes.
Hi. My quick question is, you work with tons of different actors and actresses. Who do you still want to work with, and why?
The list is so long. I'm such a fan of. I can't even think of one person off the top of my head. There's so many people out there that I hope I get the opportunity.
And then we were talking about if you're going to be in a Marvel movie, maybe. I would cast you as Senator Kelly. Now, you may not know who that is, but
I do not.
He's the heavy politician that hates the X-Men. So you'd be like the heavy against the X-Men. And would you do that? Probably. Because there's a paycheck.
It's Marvel one.
Wait, that was a question, and then you answered it. Pretty good, right? I mean, thank you so much. I'm glad I expressed myself.
You just proved right there that Han definitely shot first.
Pretty efficient in Canada.
All right, over here.
Yes, sir.
Hello. When Kim was here, you mentioned the training you guys did for Black Hawk Down. Do you have any memories from that?
I have a tremendous amount of memories for that because Kim, we got to train over in Morocco together. But before we went to Morocco, we went to an army base here, a special forces unit. And you ever hear those things like fantasy baseball camps where people pay and they go to play with? I'm sure they do it in hockey too. And you play with your former stars, and it's kind of cool. And you dress up and get out there and play with them. This was like fantasy camp for like special ops. They were letting us do things that all I kept thinking was, if the insurance company knew what they were doing, we would not be here right now. But the best part of the whole training experience is that we had real guys that were really there when the event happened, and they were with us to be like our tech advisors. And when these guys are all looking at you at the end of training and straight in the eye, and they're saying, please, get it right. You want to get it right. You want to honor them, and that was really special.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Hi, I have 2 questions, and they're both very different. My first one's about TMNT. There was a lot of rumors that you were supposed to be Shredder initially in that. Was there ever a version of the script that you got where you were the Shredder, and that changed, or was that never true?
I'm going to, listen, it's a very long story that I will make very short. We shot that film, 4.5 months. 6 months later, I was living in the Czech Republic, and I got a call that they wanted to do some reshoots. It's a true story. Came back to the States, and I said, you know, you never know, they might be adding a scene or they want to tweak something. I shot for 3 solid weeks, Monday through Friday. Whoever looked at the film decided this is a little too dark in nature, so we're going to change it. And I reshot 95% of what I already shot. And the film that came out is the one that we reshot. But all I can say is, my opinion, the film that we originally shot that was really incredible and dark and odd and beautiful, and that's not the movie that ended up on the screen. The one that we reshot ended up. And I personally like the one that we shot the first time.
So we're never going to see that version of it then?
You will never see that.
You have a better chance of seeing that, girl.
Oh, yeah. My other question is about Drive Angry. What was it about that movie that attracted you to the role, and what was it like working with Nicolas Cage?
Well, Nicholas said it was the first time I met him, and he was, you know, a gentleman and very kind. But when I read the script for the first time, I met Patrick Lucier, Canadian gentleman from Vancouver, I believe Patrick's from, and he co-wrote it and directed it, and I had a cup of coffee with him, and he said, hey, there's a few different roles in the film, and I said, no, if you want me to be in the film, I just want to play the accountant.
Yeah.
That was the only role that I really wanted to do, and he was like, great, do it. So, that was it.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
Appreciate it. We got one more question. It's you, buddy, make it a good one.
So good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Of all the things, okay, like you're such a big part of our family here. We've been fans for a number of years of your body of work and that. My personal favorite of what you've done is a TV show back in 2005, Invasion. And we thought you were fantastic. I thought I became like a bigger fan because of what you were doing in that TV series. What a great show. How was it working on that show? I know Sean Cassidy was the creator, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your feelings about working on that show?
So I'm going to be really politically correct. I'm going to be really kind. You know, sometimes you never know how things come together. You really don't. You don't know. You know, I worked on things where I thought, geez, I'm not so sure this works, and then I see it and I'm like, wow, that was pretty good. I worked on things where I was so excited about and didn't quite end up that way. But sometimes it's the experience of doing something, and the experience to me, as an actor, let me tell you something, I love the month or two before I shoot something, when I think about like who a character is or try to figure it out. I enjoy that as much as the actual shooting of the film or television. But when it came to Invasion, it wasn't a real highlight for me. And all I will say is this: that I remember the day. True story. I remember the day I was driving in a car with my wife, and for some reason she picked me up somewhere. So she was driving, and my Bluetooth was in the car radio, and we finished the season of Invasion, and now we're waiting to see if it gets picked up again. And the phone rang, and I knew the number, and I knew it was from Invasion, and I'm driving on the road, and I'm like, okay, here we go, it's the moment of truth. I said, hello. Whoever was on the other line said, hey man, listen, sometimes all good things come to an end. Fast forward to that evening, sitting in my backyard, and my wife opened the window in our house and she said, would you turn that music down? I was out there having a party by myself, celebrating the fact that I would never do another episode of Invasion. So, I'm glad you all loved it. But you know, you never know what happens behind the scenes. And And I'm going to tell you something. Out of 50-some films and a half a dozen TV shows, I never quite had that experience before, quite like that.
And
We have time for one last quick one. So.
One more.
It's sort of along the same lines. I was just curious. I personally love The Neighbor, and
Thank
I
you.
was just curious as to what made you decide to do that, to be part of it.
Because I read the script, and I said to the director, I'm just, I don't know, I really get the guy. I found him. You know, when people say to me, "Oh yeah, I saw The Neighbor, you're such a creep in it," I'm like, well, to me, you missed the story.
Exactly.
It's a very sad story about a guy who gets lost.
Yes.
But when I met Aaron Harvey, who directed it, and I met him, we had a meeting in that, and then I called him like a week later, and I'm like, it's just not for me. And I said goodbye. And then he called me back like 2 months later, and he said, I haven't made the film yet. Would you please reread it again? And I did. And I had a little bit of a different feeling. And I'm glad he called me back. And then I said,
am too. It was very good.
and then I said, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. And we did. And I liked that guy. I liked that journey that he took. I thought it was sad.
Yes, no,
Thank you.
yes, thank you.
Thank you. Well, I will say one thing. You like that guy. We like this guy right here. William Fichtner. I mean, what a great panel this was. Thank you so much. Local.
I just got one more thing to say. Go Bengals, go Vikings.
Score!
I'm going to give it to them. But Bills will win more. Well, we know that.
Thanks for watching with patience. You almost made me like it for a minute there, but I'm not going there.